I'm Graham,
And I'm Corinne. And
and
we
we
are
are
too
Too
talented.
Talented. Welcome to the Too Talented podcast, where yet again we talk about job searching, the job market, all things job, J-O-B.
J-O-B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how are you doing?
Good. Starting to get busy all
Yeah.
around. Summer is here. Maybe it feels busier because our children are home, but
I think that's a big part of it.
there's a lot of things happening in running, in business, in life. So yeah, it's good. But you have a race coming up
Tomorrow.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
racing.
Ring the Springs 100K. I'm
Mm-hmm.
ready. Gonna do what I did 2 months ago out at Mountain Vista, where I did a strong cap on a heart rate. I'm gonna keep the cap at 143, which could mean I'm doing a little more hiking than I'm used to in races, with the hope that it leaves me legs for the really long 30-mile downhill that is to finish. Because I think that's where I lost time last year. So hoping
30 miles is a long downhill.
it's a long downhill.
That's like a lot. That's a
Yeah,
50K downhill.
seriously. It's a long, and there's a couple ups
Yeah.
sprinkled in there that are pretty steep that are like hike, which is good to break it up. But yeah, it's almost like Western states to some extent, where you get a lot of the kind of climbing and up and down
On the front.
early,
Oh,
and then that last 30 miles is a pretty solid downhill.
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
And Western States is coming up in a week
it's
as
coming up.
well. I
We'll
was gonna
be
say
there.
maybe it'd be a good race to run before Western, but no,
It's too
because it's
close.
very, very, very close. But yeah, I'm excited for you. I think you're in really good shape,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be running an aid station out there all day long. Women Can aid station, same one we did last year, the Gold Camp aid, and that's a great spot where we see runners twice during the 100K and the 50K.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I've seen
yeah.
them twice, both
Yeah,
those
we
races.
see them, and then they leave and do a 7-ish mile out and back
It's actually gonna loop.
loop,
I think
7-ish mile loop.
it must go up towards Buckhorn and then loop back on Seven Bridges this year, which it
Yeah.
didn't do last year. But I
Oh,
noticed for the first time last night that it looked like they had changed to a loop.
cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I like running down Seven Bridges. It's fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a great area, and so we'll be out there volunteering all day. Bring the boys and 2 ladies that are part of Women Can and our Burrito League crew gonna be also helping out, and so, yeah, should be fun.
Should be. Yeah.
It'll be a blast. So that's on deck tomorrow, early morning for
Yeah,
both of
it's
us.
gonna be crack of dawn. And in terms of business update, Stride Staffing is going well.
Going super well.
Yeah,
Woo!
continue to be busy. I had multiple interviews go off this week. I had a contractor start Wednesday, a contractor start Thursday. So that's exciting. And I'm likely going to pick up a new job order early next week from a client of mine that I've done some work for in the past.
What are the roles of the contractors that started?
One was a contract recruiter, and then one was a DevOps engineer. And then the interviews that went off this week were, they're called, basically a consulting data engineer. They're going to go and consult with big companies on how to normalize their data and then start to help them understand what kind of AI tools that they could leverage to use AI in the internal processes of the company. There's a lot of AI going on right now.
Yeah.
Which dovetails nicely into our topic today, because we're going to be talking about kind of how AI seems to be somewhat in the driver's seat when we're talking about, things that are tech driving hiring, and AI is doing a lot of driving of hiring right now.
Yep.
How's your business going?
I just made a placement too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Hired a senior technical product manager.
Yeah.
Kind of the first product focused role within the company I'm consulting for. So that's exciting. And he lives in Cave Creek, Arizona. So we
cool.
know that spot well.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. So yeah, lots of movement there. We also hired someone in the knock technician.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Oh my gosh, great. This is data center speak, telecom speak for anyone who's unfamiliar. Network operations center is what the knock stands for. So, but it's kind of like a data center technician. Got those roles going too. So, yes, it's good.
Absolutely.
All right. So what's our topic?
The topic is the tech job market finally starting to turn? Which is a question. And for anybody who's in tech, around tech, has worked for tech companies, that's kind of your thing. This will resonate with you specifically because the tech market has been rough. The last,
Mhm.
probably as far back as 3 years ago, we started to really see a difference across the board in tech hiring and any of the tech companies hiring. So we are starting to see, I am starting to see, and with the technical product manager you just placed, a little bit of a turn. So we're going to kind of get into that. So we'll start with the latest jobs report, which some of you may have seen. It was pretty good, actually. Overall, it was like a strong overall report. I think one of the challenges as you look closer at it, it came from three basic segments. It came from healthcare, hospitality, and government, which are the three segments that have been growing probably for the last 3 years. And it's really the only three segments that have been growing. So when you really look at the jobs report, it's almost more of the same. But what we're seeing on the ground is probably a little bit of a signal that maybe isn't being yet picked up by the jobs report is some tech starting to be hired back.
So when you say tech within companies, the tech roles or technology companies as an industry?
Yes. Both those things are true, at least
Okay.
of what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Starting to see the tech companies, maybe the biggest ones aren't seeing that. Like
Mhm.
I was seeing Meta. I read an article this week that was saying that the way they rolled out their AI group was bad. Actually, the CTO of Meta said they
Mm.
did not do a good job. They cut positions that they shouldn't have cut. They added positions they probably didn't need. They just didn't do it well, which was
Mm.
kind of surprising to come out and say that publicly, but
Mhm.
it is what it is. So some of the very biggest may not be there yet, but anything where AI adoption was happening a couple years ago, companies who really started to identify what they're going to be doing from an AI strategy, those companies I think are starting to hire more.
'Kay.
So anything in tech and then also tech roles.
Okay.
So the AI reality check is kind of our next segment. And this AI has been one of the reasons these tech companies and tech roles have not been hired at the clip that we have seen traditionally is because so many companies were starting to say, oh, I think AI can do this. We don't need a person for this. And I think we're starting to jump into the reality of AI is really good, but you need a person to be able to drive it. There's got to be someone behind the wheel kind of controlling the AI.
Yeah, and I think you've seen this, and I've also kinda seen glimmers of this, that one of the new roles that's emerging and becoming increasingly, like, needed is someone to drive that AI strategy
Yep.
and to know, and do the assessment of whether or not it's gonna be advantageous or not to implement an AI tool in XYZ scenario. So that's interesting that, like, that a a job would be created out of AI that is like, "Okay, well, how do we use AI?"
Right.
But
Definitely.
it's very important.
Well, I mean, two of my last roles that I filled were exactly that. Someone who knew AI well enough, someone who could get into the processes, internal processes of an organization,
Mhm.
see what they're doing well, see what could be automated, see where we could put AI, and then start to make those changes and adding automation and AI into the internal processes to make them go faster.
And what were the titles of those roles?
Director of Technology and AI and SVP of Technology and AI.
Okay.
So similar type strategy type roles,
Yep.
and they had similar backgrounds.
Yep.
So and these people weren't like AI, LLM, like tuning experts or anything like that. They were very much technology business leaders that had assessed their current company, decided where they could implement, had a lot of success with that, and then deployed it enterprise wide. So they got then hired by another company to do basically the same thing.
Interesting. So you could say that someone who was working at a kind of an early adopting company that was exploring all of this has an advantage because they were ahead of the game and they've already kind of been through the process of what it looks like, and now they're attractive to other companies because they did it at that company.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. So one of the guys, the thing that he did the most was he was the company did a lot of call centers, and what he implemented was an automation, and you deal with this all the time when you call into a, help desk, or, your credit card, and you need to do something there. You have an automation that starts the conversation, right? It needs to get an understanding of who you are, what you need, and then it can put you to the right person. Well, what he found was originally, in all these not data centers, call centers, they had people answering the phone who would then spend a minute or two
Mhm.
figuring out all the stuff and then realize, I'm not the right person.
Mhm.
Let me transfer you to the right person. So he actually could have a few, not a ton less, but a few less people in the call center, because the automation directed the call to the exact right person. That person picked up, was able to very quickly figure out the problem, eliminate it, address it, whatever, and then end the call more successfully by using this kind of intake tool that
Mhm.
he implemented. And then he moved on to another company to do the same thing.
Nice.
Yeah. So some examples of where people are using AI. So software developers, I mean, using Claude Code, that's a big one.
Mhm.
A lot of developers are doing it. A lot of developers are relying on it to be able to generate some of the baseline code and then kind of build their own custom code on top. So that's a place, and we've heard that from a lot of different people. Recruiters are using it. In outreach, I'm using it to help me kind of craft what an email should look like. And then I edit. So I'll prompt it with what I think I should say. It gives me maybe some advice on, another way to say this. And then I'll edit on top of that. And then I use that for my outreach. So it just kind of, it's almost like talking to like a mentor, saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you think? Oh,
Mhm.
here's what I think. Okay, great. Well, let me rewrite this and implement it. So it's almost kind of like bouncing it off of somebody, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And especially for me when I'm all by myself, well, except for you in the next room, it's nice to be able to have someone to bounce it off of. Accounting, doing a lot of analysis using AI. In fact, I just took a spreadsheet and had it synthesize all the data, group into different characteristics of that spreadsheet, because I'm going to do a presentation on Tuesday. And then I had it create an infographic that kind of labeled the different parts of this organization that I'm in, saying, hey, here's how many people we have that are kind of our target people that we want within the organization. Here are some other like sales and vendors, and really trying to figure out how many of those different people, because then we know, okay, we need to target more of the main customer base, or, actually we don't have as many vendors in here as we thought. Maybe we need to kind of, boost that piece.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a neat thing. How are you using it?
A few different ways. I think one thing that we discovered is that I was using it a way that you were like, "Oh, I should use it this way." And I was like, "I'm already doing that to create Boolean searches."
Yes,
So
totally.
putting a job description into AI and saying, "Create the best Boolean search based on this job description." For anyone that doesn't know, a Boolean is the formatting for like a LinkedIn search. It's basically like parentheses of like, okay, here's four different names for a systems administrator, systems engineer, whatever, like four different titles. So return everyone who has systems admin or systems engineer or senior administrator, or it's a way to search for a skill set by writing out like this and or statement. And some, I guess advanced recruiters know how to write those, but it's very easy now to just put that in and say, create one for me. And I actually am getting back based on this, I'll say, here's the job description, and it'll give me, okay, here's a very technical Boolean search. If you need it more broad, here's a more broad version. But maybe you want to start with this and then go, deeper from here. You could take this out. If this isn't important, then change it up this way. And I've been using those searches to do passive sourcing on LinkedIn and Indeed, because we have a sourcing function within or a candidate search tool in Indeed as well. So I'm using it for that. I also just used it and I am primarily using ChatGPT. um, I'm gonna be giving out Women Can little tote zip pouches at Western States next week, and I wanted to print out, little cards with these motivational quotes on them, and I needed to do it based on or I wanted to do it based on all of the people that we've already featured in Women Can. So on the Women Can Instagram page, we've featured 100 different women, and each of them have a favorite quote. So I wanted to pull each of their unique quotes and put them on these little cards. So I used it to extract the quotes from the graphics. Um,
Mm.
so I put all the graphics in
Okay.
and said, pull the quote from each of these with the name of the woman who it was their favorite quote. And one limitation I found is that it would only do like 20 at a time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I couldn't
Interesting.
put 100 of them in there and
Okay.
it pull it. So I had to do them 20 at a time. And then I said, well, can you aggregate it and put all of them together now that you've pulled them? And it's like, it said I can only use the last ones I looked at. It couldn't go
Uh,
back in its own search history.
okay. Got it.
So definitely did it a lot faster than I would have been able to do it, but I kind of had to do this combination of, well, you extract the quotes and then I manually put them in a spreadsheet and then I typed them out into Canva.
Got
So
it.
it was definitely faster, but it wasn't quite as quick as I thought maybe it would be able to do it.
Yeah, when I had that issue today, when I was working on that spreadsheet, there was, anybody who knows, like when you pull a spreadsheet from like a member list, some of the fields can get wonky.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of the fields were wonky, and then it didn't capture what the job title of the person was.
Mm-hmm.
So it it sent me 15 out of the 100 saying, I can't figure out what this person does. Can you, go to LinkedIn, figure out the job title, and then put it in here, and then I'll recreate this infographic based on that. But what I've found is the job title a lot of times was in there. It was just misfielded. It was in the wrong
Yeah.
field. It was there. So
Mhm.
all I could do,
Mhm.
I could look at it instantly and be like, oh yeah, there's the job title. It's just in the wrong field. So then I would populate it. So I only probably had to look up 5 or 6 in LinkedIn because the titles were actually there. So
Nice.
yeah, there's some limitations.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But a lot of it is a data limitation. But in your case, it's not true.
Well, it's interesting because I also was using it to do some research for our podcast about Western states. And there were some things that were incorrect.
Really.
And so I think it's just very interesting to like kind of use it, but then it's like you gotta go back and you gotta
Yeah.
check it yourself. You gotta double check. You gotta think like, does that make sense or not? Looking at the sources it's pulling from
Sure.
and just validating those. I'm like, oh yeah, that was an Iron Far article. That's probably pretty valid or
Yeah.
pretty accurate because
Yeah.
I know they do good research. But it was telling me a few things about like the number of people in the lottery. And when I compared it against the actual Western States website, it was different. And so
Huh.
I was like, I gotta, yeah. I think it's certainly helpful, but it's like you definitely kind of have to question everything again once you get it back and just validate and do your own fact checking and kind of confirmation. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things, and we've talked about this a little before, but we'll review it. So, Klarna is a company that kind of famously said they were going to eliminate their entire customer service team
What
and
does
have
Klarna do? I'll look it up.
fintech of some sort.
Okay. Okay. Big
Online.
company, right?
It's a pretty big company. They're not massive, but they had like 600 people in customer service. They ended up having the ability to eliminate but the opportunity to eliminate all those jobs and then have AI chatbots be able to do the customer service. What ended up going really, really wrong for them, they ended up losing a bunch of customers over it, and then they ended up hiring back actually more customer service agents than they had laid off, which is kind of wild to think about. But one of the things that they came back and said was, there was complex issues. Someone would have something that just wasn't straightforward that they had a question about, and the AI could not multi-step an answer.
Mhm.
So then, like, what do you do? Like, if
Mhm.
the AI is your only outlet to get customer service, you can't get it to work. It's like, as a customer, you're like, what do I do here?
Mhm.
And they didn't have a good answer for that. There was also people talking about they liked having, a human, an empathetic human kind of on the other side helping them. If the AI works really, really smoothly, maybe you don't care that much. But if it's a complex issue and the AI is not working very well, you're going to want, a human to be able to help out. So there's a number of things. And I think the last thing was, I think Klarna has long-term customers. They were saying that the customer service opportunity is to build a relationship with your customer,
Mhm.
and you don't have the ability to do that with AI.
Mhm.
And so you could lose people based on that. So there was a number of things, but they ended up hiring a lot of those people back. They probably still use AI. They probably use AI to get answers very, very quickly,
Mhm.
which probably makes the customer service people more effective. But I think from a use case perspective, that's what we're hearing the most is,
People
people using
using
AI
AI.
as a tool to answer a question very, very quickly. That's an amazing.
Not AI replacing the people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Klarna is a everyday money app,
Everyday money.
helping you manage spending, payments, and rewards all in one place. So because they're an app and they're digital, like focus is probably part of why they kind of went that direction. But
Yeah.
yeah, they have a card, flexible payments, cashback, budget tracking, mobile plan. Kind of like it looks like you can pay everywhere with a Klarna card.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So almost kind of like a is Cash App the other or like your wallet, like pay
You like Apple Pay?
basically Apple Pay, yeah,
Yeah.
similar to that.
Got
But
it.
got it.
Yeah. So based on that and kind of what we heard with Klarna, and what we're hearing about kind of on the ground, we're starting to feel like tech hiring has started to improve. So, and it's been slow for years, as we said, for about 3 years. Why could that be the case? First reason that I was thinking of is companies have been lean for a while, right?
Mhm.
There was 2023 was the, meta year of efficiency. They got really efficient, got rid of a lot of managers, but when you start doing new projects, you got to have some people doing those projects. And right now, they're not doing it,
Yeah.
right? Because they don't have enough people. So, how do you get projects done? How do you innovate? How do you do all those things? You need people to be able to do that. So, I think some hiring is happening there. You want to take that second one?
Yeah, AI doesn't implement itself. Um, yeah, we need people who know how to implement it, how to train people internally to use it, how to um yeah, manage it. I think about like maybe putting governance in place for companies around how they're using it. Just like how you used to, we now for in recruiting we saw I think for a while companies that needed to put out like okay, here's how we're going to use your data,
Yeah.
these data policies and stuff like that. I could very well see, you know, here's how we use AI as a company, an AI policy being created as part of a of companies going forward so that customers know how it's being used. But basically just figuring out like, yeah, what value does it add? Where's the ROI? Should we automate this or not? All
Yeah.
those things need to be made by decisions that need to be made by people. They can't really be made by the AI themselves.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. Um, so, um,
Your experience with placing the AI leaders.
yeah, and we already talked about it.
Yeah.
So we don't need to cover it again. So jobs that we've seen be created by AI. So I mean the two that I was talking about before, the leader level person doing that. There's also, the people who are going to be actually doing the implementation. Um,
Mhm.
one of the biggest things that I'm seeing, and I dealt with it today, is the data needs to be really good for AI to be able to do something with it.
Mhm.
Because if the data sucks, and a lot of companies have bad data, you can't do anything with it. You need to kind of work the data through and do ETL. I know ETL is a big one. So extract, transform, load. So extract the data, transform it into being the same data as all the other data you're getting, and then load it into a database so AI can kind of work it. Those roles are big right now. Data engineering type roles. Um, Governance, like you were saying, AI security. And then one big one here is change management. That's a huge one. And a big part of those people that I placed, a big thing that they ask them is, there's a lot of people who don't know AI or are scared of AI or not wanting to use it. I put an AI person at a municipality locally, and their whole goal is to help people understand who are using it. Here's the best ways to use AI for this particular application, whether
Mhm.
it's permitting or architectural design or any of those type of things. And hey, you over there sitting in the corner not using it, here's how you could use it to make your job faster.
Yeah.
So really helping with AI adoption and helping people understand that, change is scary, but change can be good. If you could do your job faster, would that be a good thing? And most people would say absolutely.
So, one thing that's kind of interesting, do you think that we're going to see, because I think we started to see this maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, there started to be these companies that were like very cause focused. And so people wanted to work for a company because of the underlying cause, philosophy, their, you know, um, basically like mission of being, I think of, companies like Patagonia
Mm,
or like, which that's a whole different thing. They're in the middle of some craziness right now, but like mission driven organizations, and people wanted to work for them because that aligned with their own personal values. So, do you think that people in the future are going to be like, I don't know that I want to work for this organization because they're too heavily AI focused? And I don't believe philosophically that we should be using AI in this way. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
if
no,
somebody
absolutely.
internally in a company is like, you have to learn all these AI tools and we're going to teach you how to use them. Well, what if that person's like, I don't really believe that this is the right way to do things. And so I don't know if I want to work for this company. I don't really want to learn AI because I don't want, I feel like it's like not the correct thing.
So I have a other side of the coin kind of challenge for you in that
Okay.
regard. So it's 1990 and the personal computer is being brought in the offices for the first time.
Hmm.
And there were a lot of people who probably didn't want to use a personal computer. They wrote all their stuff down. Sales order comes in, they write it all out
Hmm.
and fax it to somebody or hand it to somebody for processing, but they never had to use a computer. And then someone comes to say, you can't handwrite that anymore. You got to do it in a computer. And there was probably the same level of people saying, ugh, computer. I mean, I don't even know how to type. Um, I think we're at the same phase and junction, because if you ask someone now, hey, could you do this on a computer? I would be shocked if there were people out there in any meaningful way that couldn't at least jump into a computer and use it in some way. Or
So
even
you think it's inevitable that everyone's going to have to know how to use it
I
and have to work with it?
I think AI won't even be like thought about as AI anymore. It'll just be the way.
Mm.
Right? So, like, what do you do right now? So, like, for perfect example, the municipality I'm working on, they wanted to speed up how fast they were able to approve architectural plans that
Yeah.
people submitted. Hey, we want to build this.
Mhm.
It was taking 90 days before. So, what they were saying now is, could we get it down to 30 by using AI to say, synthesize this for me and let me know if there are any red flags based on the red flags that we input into this? And it does it so much faster, as opposed to the person flipping through the pages one by one saying, oh, is there a red flag here? Is there?
Mhm.
It's just going to make it faster. And I think everything that could be done, that'll just be the way it's done.
But what if, and not to totally sidetrack this whole conversation, but what what if a what if a company decides that their differentiator is going to be that they use zero AI in their customer service?
Yeah.
And you can always talk to a person when you call into them.
Well,
Like I think of like the Trader Joe's and the Costco's, and like, what if a company decides they're going to take the approach to to be completely like human first and human focused?
yeah.
That just might be interesting from a like that might attract a certain type of employee.
It could. So, what if you had best of both worlds? What if you identified places within the company? What if an accounting transaction that normally had to be done by hand,
Mhm.
you could figure out how to have your ERP tool do the accounting transaction, automated,
Yeah.
right? So you don't have to do it. Or reconciliations in accounting transactions were done automatically, as opposed to someone having to hunt through and figure out where this offset this.
Mhm.
But you took your customer service super seriously and you had only people doing customer service, but they had access to a chatbot that they could ask it questions if stuff they didn't know.
Mhm.
You're still
It's true.
having the customer service done by a
Yeah.
human, the kind of warmth of that, but you have the other part of the
You're
company's.
using the technology
Yeah.
as you can. Yeah, I think that's my main point, is just that I think it could also make make companies in general think about having to having to rethink about what their overarching philosophy is as a company when it
Yeah.
comes to this stuff.
Well, and I think
How
that
are we gonna use it? Where are we gonna use it? How is it gonna be visible to our customer or not? And then, like, you know, does that align with our overarching ethos and philosophy on how we do business as an organization?
for sure. I mean, I think companies right now who are thinking about this have to be thinking about it one of two ways. What's the machine do better?
Mhm.
What does a human do better? And really understanding that I'm sure there's all kinds of things where humans make mistakes pretty regularly in
Yeah.
this particular process. Well, let's eliminate humans from this process, which frees up those humans to go do something that's really important to humans, like talking to customers. Talking to customers is you need a human.
But do you think the AI is there to fully replace at in some
I think it's good for
instances?
tasks,
Yeah.
not necessarily people,
Yeah.
right? You have the accounting person, and maybe at this company, it's really hard to do a reconciliation, a line item
Mhm.
reconciliation between the two. They just don't reconcile. And you don't know why, and you can't figure it out, and you can't find it. It takes you a couple hours every time you do it.
Mhm.
Well, what if an AI tool could do it in 10 seconds? So you just click a button and says, "Go find these two transactions." Boom, finds the transactions, and you're done. You still have to know which transaction to ask it to look at. You still have to then hit the button to make it find it. And then you still have to look at it and go, yes, that's correct. And so you as a human just get to do your job faster and don't have to have a mistake riddled answer.
Yeah. It's interesting, it kinda makes me think, and I know we'll get on to the final thoughts here, but it makes me think about, the former company I worked with, sports nutrition company, how they shifted their internal, like, warehouse operations to automation from, like, robots picking orders, and then they had a very, very custom, conveyor belt system for, packing orders, and it was able to pack things way faster than humans did. However, every now and then, one little part of that would break or mess up. And there were constantly human beings physically in the warehouse monitoring the system and the
Right.
software. So it didn't fully eliminate the people. And then when if and when, just like in a data center, if you go out, if you lose power and your data is compromised for however much time, it's like an emergency situation.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to figure it out real quick because the consequences are higher for, it breaking. And like there was a story where somebody had to fly to Europe to get a part for this
All right.
to fix this machine because every and it, it was down for 24 hours, and how many orders are you losing or missing or getting behind on in a 24-hour period, and it had to be solved by a human going to literally get a part. So yeah, I don't know, it's just interesting, different examples of it. We're always trying to make it kind of make things faster and more efficient, but I think there's always those risks of those things also failing and ultimately it needing to come back to a human being to figure it out and get it fixed.
Definitely. Yeah.
So,
So, advice for job seekers, and thinking about how you should be articulating your use of AI. So there's basically two basic areas that I can think of that could be very successful. One, asking in an interview questions of the hiring manager. How are you all leveraging AI? Which tools are you using? Have you looked at processes that you have that you could automate, make faster, make better? Those types of things. So I think that's really an important place to be asking that question, because all the things that they tell you, you can say, okay, great, because my last company was doing it this way, this way, and this way. And
mm,
by the way, I can bring those ideas here because it was very successful in this particular use case. So being able to use real examples and have a place where you could add value and bring ideas from outside their company into them. It's one of the reasons people hire outside of the company is to get new, fresh ideas. And so if you can bring those to the interview, that's super powerful. And then I think, really understanding ways that you could be leveraging AI in your own personal job or your own personal life that you can, be saying, hey, I've been doing this with it. If you're like, let's go back to the accounting example again. By the way, I was using, I found this new Claude tool that helps me do reconciliations 10 times faster. I just click this button, it goes through the entire log, finds the two transactions, and I can look at it and say, okay, here's why it's not reconciling. And I can
Mhm.
balance it and do it. And it used to take me an hour, and now it takes me 5 minutes. Have you guys implemented anything like that? Man, a hiring manager's gonna look at it and whoa, I need this and this
Mhm.
person to help me do this.
Yeah.
So those are, I think, ways to do it, is being able to, one, articulate your skills with AI, and two, getting a good understanding of what they're doing. That way you can kind of leverage it in the future. Anything you would want to recommend to people?
No, I think that's great.
Awesome.
Love it. Um, yeah. So being open to it, um, I think, yeah, to your point, using it to your advantage within your own profession and just kind of learning about what's out there and available to you and maybe doing some research on how people in your area are using it or not. Just staying ahead of kind of the trends on it and up on it, and then, like, yeah, thinking about exactly, you're exactly right of, like, there's probably well, yeah, there's probably gonna be a question, an AI type question in most interviews at this point.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Even if that is just, "Have you ever used any of the tools? Do you know what to use? Like, do you have any experience with?" And I think what I'm seeing is, like, it's a nice to have. Like, okay, we need somebody who's focused on, um, Nutanix, for example, and they need to know these tools or they need to know these languages. By the way, do you have any experience with Microsoft Copilot? Because that's something that we might use as an organization. So could be a differentiator, could be helpful. It's not a must have in this situation, but they're going to ask you, um, you know, could you bring that as well? So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. One final thing, knowing where AI is good and understanding it where it sucks, I think is important, because one of the things that I've had happen is, and this is like in job applications, people are using job or AI bots to apply for all kinds of jobs,
Mm.
which is really causing a ton of jobs to get applied for with people who are simply not
Ugh,
qualified.
yeah, you're
Um,
so
Oh my
frustrated.
gosh, it's so frustrating, when I post something like that. You get flooded with all kinds of just weird stuff where it's like, why is this candidate summary my job description? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So, there's parts of it that it doesn't do well. That's one of them. And then also, like, I get a lot of business development reach outs where someone had a AI tool go hunt down my LinkedIn profile. The most recent one
Yeah.
was, it covered stuff from my college. So it was like, hey, it looks like you were a big skier in college and you went to NC State, and you were also in this fraternity. I'm like, that was 20 years ago.
You're
I
like
have a million things in my LinkedIn profile since then. Why would you talk about that?
yeah, it can kinda serve the opposite purpose. It can be kind of offensive, and I
Yeah,
see that too of people, like, being like, "Look at this slop." Like, "Look at this
yes,
AI slop. We don't
totally.
want any of this." So
So I think, knowing where AI in your job doesn't do well and being able to articulate that to people, hey, we should not use AI for this business development tool. It's garbage.
mhm,
We got to do something else with it. And being able to articulate that, I think, is equally as important.
totally agree.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on Too Talented. If you guys have experience with AI that you want to put in a comment, or leave us a review or follow us, subscribe. Uh, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.